It's time to talk golf, and it's U.S. Open week, so we're all excited about that. Jared Smola from DraftSharks.com. How's it going, Jared?
It's going good, despite coming off my second straight runner-up finisher in the tournament. Those are always tough to take, but we're getting guys in the mix. They just gotta close the deal.
Oh, yes, says the analyst that has over $1,900 in his account. So thank goodness you finished in second, because I finished in first and I needed it. So that put me back over to.
Oh, did you take Rory?
Yeah. So that put me $200 over. So I'm still $1,700 behind you. So I needed it more.
Well, how do you do that? I need to do that. I want to gamble.
Well, that's what you're doing. See, you're gambling. See, I can just pop this up right here. It has all our picks. And there's Jan's picks, Jared's picks, my picks for this week's event. And we have a system. We've shown it before. We'll update it again. But basically, it's, as you see, that the numbers by each one of the players means you could basically say it's a dollar amount. So $100 on the first place, 70, 50, 40, 20, and the $210 on the alternates. And so that's how we're going to try to make some money this week in the U.S. Open. And I think we only have a few players we've duplicated. Let's see, Rory, Sam Burns, Shane Lowry. I think that's it. Only 3 duplicate players. The rest are all that means that there are 14, 21, 18 other picks that are available. So if one of us doesn't win,
that's right.
Yeah, we're in trouble. All right, before we talk U.S. Open, let's talk LIV. Did we find out what LIV stands for, by the way?
Yes, it's 54 in Roman numerals.
It is 50. So that was our guess. And
yep.
But did we have, remember it was like, okay, but if it is 54, what oh, okay. So it was for the 3 rounds. Was that it?
Well, no, it actually, what they said is it was done from Pia Nelson and Lynn Marriott came up with the Swedish thing that you should be able, if you can birdie any hole on the golf course, why couldn't you birdie every hole and shoot 54? So that 54 was that this is the best you can do.
Okay.
I mean, they said the 54 holes, but they're probably going to have to change it to 72 or they won't get any world rankings. So
True. By the way, I didn't even introduce Jan.
That's okay.
Like she needs introduction. She's the Hall of Famer of the group. Okay, so what did we first of all think about the event itself, Jared? You had time to watch on YouTube?
A little. I honestly can't say I watched a lot. I just don't have much interest in it at this point. I just think they have a lot of work to do. I think it starts with the fields. They need to get stronger fields, and it sounds like that might be happening. We know Bryson is going to play at least in the Portland event. I think Patrick Reed is going to be playing some events there. So that's the first thing. I think they need to work on simple things like the leaderboard we were talking about. Like, just it was tough to comprehend. They didn't even have a leaderboard on the website until the first round was almost over. Like they didn't think about that. And then I don't think the team. I think you either have to have a team competition or an individual competition. I know you can have both of them at the same time. I just don't think that works.
I don't think anybody cares about the team competition.
Yeah.
So I know financially, handicapping wise, they're gonna, but it's just the play. I don't even care about the New Orleans event on the PGA Tour. So I'm not so sure why anybody would think that we would care about the LIV Tour team event. And yeah, I mean, trying to follow the leaderboard with abbreviated names, we don't even know what their name is if it wasn't abbreviated. So I don't know what they're thinking. I think it would have been a lot better, of course, if it would have been some drama, because every time I kept going back and forth, Charles Schwartzel was up by 3 or 4 strokes, and it's like, why am I paying attention to this? Jan, what did you think?
Well, I mean, the whole event, it's almost like they weren't ready. There was so much wrong with the event that you'd think, especially Greg, I mean, as much as he's played, I would have thought the breakout one would have been like unbelievable. I mean, I know they had fantastic concerts every day because the people were saying that they'd stay for the concert even if the golf was boring, and which is kind of sad, but they had, I guess, really, really big names over in England. I think the weather was wrong. I mean, you don't want to play, England's cold at any time, but to kick it off with everybody cold and miserable and, it's okay when it's later on in the year, but I think they should have just blown everybody away. I know that the PGA put the pressure on all the media so they couldn't get any television, but I think I kind of would have had more of my ducks in a row so that it would have been like, wow, it was fantastic and the problem they had was that the Canadian Open was so fantastic. The competition in the golf was so amazing. You had 3 huge names and they all were just one after another making these amazing shots. So that hurt too, because normally the Canadian Open, maybe is almost a secondary event, but having those big names and everybody playing so great, it was really, I just couldn't stop watching.
And then having only 3 rounds too, that was a little bit, because after the second round, I had to be reminded myself of, wait a second, this thing's going to be over.
Yeah, I know. I turned on Sunday getting ready to watch it and went, oh, that's right. He won yesterday. And I didn't know whether, and especially being in England. So I thought, oh, that makes sense. But you get used to finishing on a Sunday. It's even hard enough when they have the long weekend and they finish on a Monday. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of boring. I think I didn't even know who the commentators were. So they didn't even announce them or who was who. And I didn't really recognize their names that much.
Yeah. All the money.
Go ahead, Jared. I thought the best part of the event was that course. I think that looked like a really cool course. I'd like to see the PGA play there.
It's a beautiful golf course. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the things that we would like to see the PGA Tour do more of. And that's why I'm glad that we're going to see an event this week at the US Open on a golf course that we just don't ever see. It's amazing because I think, what was it, the event that they played at? I think it's the one that Jason Kokrak won at, I believe, a couple of years ago. I think it was a WGC event. And was it at the event that they had to move out of Mexico at the last minute and they changed it to Las Vegas or somewhere in, I forget where it was, somewhere in the West. I think it might have been Utah or whatever. But it was a really nice looking golf course. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with this golf course? This is a nice looking golf course.
The PGA Tour get great golf courses.
There's so many nice golf courses out there that they don't ever go to. And then when they go to one, it's like the rotation for the FedEx, the one where they'll only go to, what is it? Which is the one in Jersey City?
Oh, the links, not granite links.
Yes, it is a links course though, right? It's a links style course. It's something national. Is that what it's called?
Liberty.
Yeah,
Liberty National.
Liberty National.
That's such a nice golf course.
It is. I've played it. It is unbelievable. And it's always in immaculate condition.
And they show the view of New York City, and they go there once every 3 years. I mean, come on. Why don't you go
I think they're going there every year now, aren't they?
No, I hope that they changed that, but I haven't seen it in a couple of years myself. I hope that's happened, but it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm with you from an entertainment perspective. From a handicapping perspective, I do think it's helpful when they play these same courses over and over again. Gets us more data to look at.
Yeah, that's true. But they with the U.S. Open, it's supposed to be, if you get on the rotations every 10 years with the USGA.
So what did you think about Phil Mickelson's press conference? Because it was, it's amazing, not just the press conference, but afterwards. And look, I actually am a fan of Brandon Chambly because I like the fact that he can be like an asshole to anybody.
He is.
I like that. And there's not enough of those people out there, especially nowadays. So
he's definitely a know-it-all.
Yeah. And even though I completely disagree with what he said, it was almost like he had a vendetta against Phil. It's like, come on, be realistic. And you know what they're doing because they're kissing the ass of the PGA Tour because those are the people that basically pay their salary. It should be called the PGA Tour Network, not the Golf Channel.
That's true.
And so that's the kind of thing that was just sickening. It's just hearing them just rip Phil and rip them and rip them. It's like, well, I don't want to hear this. I mean, if the PGA Tour had an opportunity to hold an event in Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia threw them $1 gazillion to hold an event there, they would go there. So this hypocrisy.
Of course they would. They already do. They do a European Tour event, and they all get a huge appearance fee, and they go.
There you go. So the hypocrisy that a player can't do it, but it's okay for an organization to do it. That's the thing that just drives me crazy.
That's a good point. And you know what I think is what I don't like them criticizing the human rights thing. If that's the case, why are we buying oil from them? You know, I mean, if you're going to be if you're going to either stand up for that, you should stand up for it the whole way.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Go
this is
in or out.
sports anyway. It shouldn't really be. I mean, it should be really, the PGA should be saying, this is great that there's another golf league of some kind to promote golf, and other people might be watching it that don't understand the PGA. And these people are going to throw us $1 billion to promote the tour, to promote golf. They should be happy, because John Rahm said it great in the press conference today. He said, you know, the reason I waited and decided not to, because my whole life I wanted to go play Riviera and win. I wanted to go play the courses that, you know, and compete and get the and win, because what you've done your whole life. So he said, I've got plenty of money, and it's really about, you know, winning majors and being in that position. So there's always going to be that. There's always going to be that. And then Keith Mitchell said today on the radio, he was saying, look, it costs about $250,000 a year of your own money. Not like, you know, when you make it into the big leagues in sport, you get guarantees, right? On the PGA Tour, you don't. In the LPGA Tour, you pay for your own caddy, your own hotel. It's against the rules for anyone to give you free stuff, unless you're going into an overseas event. And that was the hardest thing Rory had, because they wouldn't pay him appearance fee when he changed to go play on the PGA Tour. So you're out a lot of money, the travel, the caddies, the trainer, the work you do, and you pay for it with your own money. So when even a Taylor Gooch, he might have had a sponsor, or he may have done it on his own, but to be guaranteed that much money and not have to pay your expenses, that's huge.
And just imagine if you get hurt.
That's the other thing. All these guys that are in their 30s and 40s, you have one thing go wrong and you're done.
It could be a 2-year deal, and especially for, say, a guy like a Taylor Gooch who's just trying to make it in. Yes, it looks like he's about to have some success, but one injury could derail his career for a couple of years, and he'd be going, I can't believe I had the opportunity to sign that guaranteed check, and I didn't do it.
I wonder what's going to happen when if the tour, after the $1 billion is gone, and they don't want to do it again, and they don't want to put the money into to PR purposes. Does the PGA let him back in?
I think they would. I mean, why wouldn't you? Unless you just wanted to what?
Punish him?
Be you know, jerks about it. I mean, come on. It's not that I think they've been very. I don't think they've handled this very well at all.
No, I agree. I'm so tired of hearing everybody support the PGA and saying we've got to smash this before it goes any further. The PGA should be bigger than this. Jay Monahan makes $10 million a year. Really? He's worried about the LIV Tour?
It should have been a way that they. I mean, I haven't heard anything about how the people who've represented the LIV Tour have been a negative impact, again, unless you want to look at politics behind it and who they are as people and all that stuff. But we've just been through that already. It's you would have thought that, okay, and it kind of seem like that, like, well, look, they're okay. Now, what is the difference between the USGA saying, hey, it's okay, come and play this week, but the PGA Tour is not allowing these players to play? So why is it okay for the USGA? Like, what was the difference there that they were okay with it and the PGA Tour isn't? Jared,
you want to answer that, or you want me to?
Well, I mean, to me, I think the USGA is kind of proud of the fact that the U.S. Open is truly an open, like anyone that qualifies can play, and they didn't want to, stop that from being the case.
Well, that's true. I mean, you think about it, the USGA is our governing, will start off as the amateur body, but, and it is the USGA, but that's what the PGA should have done. It should have been everything. But the only thing is, when you make it on tour and you get your card, you have to sign over your rights to the PGA. You don't do that with the USGA. Well, you do for the one event, but that's it. Because I know when I won the Open, I wanted to get a picture of me with the trophy, and I had to buy the picture from the USGA.
That's just crazy. All right. Now, well, by the way, when's the next event, Jared?
The next LIV event?
Yeah. Do you know?
I don't, to be honest.
Yeah.
I guess
it's in Portland. Isn't it in Portland in a couple of weeks?
Okay. That's the next one.
In Oregon. There's only 5 in the U.S. That's what's so silly.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to talk about this Hideki Matsuyama thing. We didn't talk about it last week, and I'm gonna put up the club to show everybody what we're talking about here. So the club here, you see this little white. It almost looks like it's a logo. Actually, that's how kind of it looks to me. I actually, when I'm looking at it, I would have thought that it actually went with the club. Oh, that's the way the club looks. Okay, but apparently that's not what happened. So he gets disqualified for why, Jan?
Well, I tell you what I thought was pretty bad was that another manufacturing guy turned him in. Another, like, I don't know whether it was TaylorMade, but one of the guys knew that his employee had put the paint on there because Hideki was having trouble. It's a brand new 3-wood. It's a Strixon club. They're really good, but it has you couldn't see the grooves, and he had trouble seeing if it was in the center of the face because it was so dark with the shadow of the ball. So the guy that works for him said, "Oh, well, I'll just put some paint in the grooves," and he went over the grooves, and he didn't take the paint off. And so in the rules, if it's deemed to be on the surface of the face and it could affect the action of the ball, whether it's, gives it overspin or backspin, because in the old days, you'd actually, when our grooves would get, like worn out, you were allowed to sharpen down into the grooves, but you can't do anything to the actual face. If you scratch the face, you had to go get it checked. So he didn't, I mean, somebody said he did it on purpose, but I didn't like the fact that somebody turned him in, because certainly Hideki's not going to do something like that on purpose. I bet the new club's going to have white grooves.
So, I mean, do you think Hideki just didn't know that rule?
Yes, and if I'd have looked at it, I wouldn't even have thought that because it really did not affect the shape of the shot. It's white out. It's not even anything. But, it's like saying that, when people put Vaseline on their drivers in the old days, what I heard with the persimmon wood so that it would get more overspin. So it's that's when the rules, I think, started like 50 years ago.
Nobody likes a tattletale.
No.
All right. So at least he didn't get disqualified in the final round with the lead.
Yeah, that's true.
Could have been worse.
And he's such a classy guy. He just handled it well. I probably would have put up a bit more of a fuss.
All right. Now let's talk US Open and Brookline. So the big question, Jared, did you see the movie?
I didn't.
Oh no! You know what? It's going to mean more now, though. Once you look at Brookline.
I chose to spend those couple hours, researching this event and hopefully giving out some winning picks instead of watching the movie. So I'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, you better pick a winner then.
It was so funny. They had a spelling contest trying to have people spell Ouimet, and they couldn't do it. It was so funny.
Yeah, because Jan, since you've seen the movie, let's do some quick trivia. Can you finish this line from Harry Vardon's book of the movie? Okay, ready? Mm-hmm. There are only 2 types of players.
Oh God, no.
Those who keep their nerves in control and win championships, and those who don't.
That's actually very appropriate for the Open.
All right, and do you remember these little lines in the movie? How about this one? What's that carrying his bags? A pygmy?
That's that 10-year-old caddy.
And then, of course, the pygmy came out and said, "Dames, who needs them? Easy peasy lemon squeezy."
Oh yeah, that one for sure. That one I remembered.
And okey pokey driving smoky.
No, I didn't remember that one.
No, okay. Well, this is what you got to look forward to, Jared.
I like when you hear the stories of what happened to the caddy in the end. Did you read that?
Oh yes. You mean as far as the caddy being a millionaire?
Yeah, he went on to be a big businessman. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's only 10 years old.
I mean,
it's a cute movie.
In reality, if that's like, that's Matthew McConaughey and who knows, name a short actor. famous actor. It might have even won awards. That's how good the movie
Yeah,
was.
I agree.
But because
It
it
was a good
was
movie.
low budget and nobody really knew who Shia LaBeouf was at the time, and it's a golf movie, it just didn't get publicized. And unfortunately, Bill Paxton, who directed the movie, passed away a few years ago. He was not only, I mean, he only made a couple of movies, and both of them were pretty good. Obviously, this one was very good, but he was a great actor. So, all right. Now, we are going to preview this event in a few different ways, including a little bit later on. I have groups of 3 that I'm going to ask Jared and Jan to decide which player to take. We'll also have 3 long shots to choose from that are 100-1 or more that Jed or Jared would put a buck on, and they cannot be included in their picks. And let's get started with the favorites. So, Rory, 10-1. Rahm and Justin Thomas are at 12-1. And as far as our picks go, both actually, Jan and I have Rory. Of course, I'm going right back to Rory after winning last week. I'd be foolish not to. Meanwhile, Jan went with Rory as well. So first, Jan, why'd you take Rory?
Well, I don't like to do someone back to back. It's hard. I did it one time. I won the LPGA championship, and then I won the next week in Hershey. But it's hard to do because it's a little tiny bit of a letdown because you're so on a high and everything went right. So then there's a little tiny bit of a letdown. The only reason that I don't think that will be is because it is the U.S. Open. And so that, next week he'll be exhausted, but I think he's going to be okay because he's playing so well. And when Rory gets on, there's nobody better. Like, look at how he drives it. And I picked him because this golf course has a lot of, how like at Muirfield, if you miss on the right is the right way to miss. But when you miss on this and the Brookline, the greens are tiny. And if you miss on the left, you're better off. And Rory hits it right to left.
Okay. So that's helpful. That's a bonus I wasn't aware of. Rahm. You also have Rahm, Jan, as one of your picks. Rahm is your 3rd choice at 12-1. So why did you go with Jon Rahm? And why did you take out of the top 4? And everybody would know the consensus is pretty obvious. McIlroy, Rahm, Thomas, and Scheffler is the top 4. So first, why'd you go with Rahm? And then second, why did you go with McIlroy and Rahm over Justin Thomas and Scheffler?
Okay, well, I think Rahm took a week off, so he's really rested. The only thing is there is a little bit of extra work being the defending champion, but he would have done the press con day, so he would have seen the course, and so he has a good feel for the golf course. I mean, he sounded like at his press conference, he actually sounded really, really comfortable. And when the U.S. Open is the ultimate pressure. There's just so much pressure because if at the Augusta and I guess yes this year at Southern Hills. If you can miss and get away with it, but this at a U.S. Open, you have to be very defensive. They want you, if you miss the green, to be short so you can pitch it up. And he's a really good chipper out of that long grass. Remember a couple of times last year when he won, he hit some amazing shots. Remember at Memorial, he hit some incredible chip shots out of the long grass last year. And so I think around the greens, it's going to be typical U.S. Open rough. He drives it. I picked all the guys that I think are really good drivers, and that's why I didn't do JT. I don't think JT is as good a driver. He's a great iron player, an amazing short game, great chipper, which is important for. You've got to be able to hit a really high wedge shot, and Rahm is really open with his wedges. He gets the ball really hot and a lot of high and spin. So I picked Rahm because he's number 1, a good driver, even though he hits it left to right. But 2, he's a wonderful, wonderful chipper.
All right, Jared. So you did not take any of the 4. So if you had an opportunity or you had to make the decision to take one of those 4, who would you go with?
Yeah, I'm with you and Jan, I guess, and say I do think Rory and Rahm deserve to be the 2 favorites here, and I think Jan said it perfectly. I think driving is so important at the U.S. Open. You just look at the last few winners. I mean, Rahm last year, Bryson 2 years ago, Brooks won it a few years before that twice, actually. Even in between that was Gary Woodland, who I think is an underrated driver of the ball. So that's so important, I think, is being long and being accurate off the tee. And to me, Rahm and Rory are the two best drivers in the game. So I think they're the two best bets to win this tournament. I just didn't like the numbers that we were getting on them.
All right, so let's see some interesting notes here. If let's see for Rahm, the last player to win back-to-back U.S. Opens, Brooks Koepka, 18 and 17. So that's what Rahm's trying to do. For Justin Thomas, let's see, he's trying to win the PGA and the U.S. Open. Do you know the last player to do that in the same year?
Probably Tiger.
Brooks?
Yes, Jared?
I'll say Brooks.
Yes.
It was Brooks?
Same year, 2018.
Wow.
Jordan Spieth was the last player to win back-to-back majors, doing it in 2015 with the Masters and the U.S. Open. Again, something Justin Thomas is trying to do. So there's some odds that really going against Justin Thomas here. It's not very easy to accomplish what he would have to accomplish. By the way, he does not have a top 5 in 7 U.S. Opens. Justin Thomas.
Well, look at that drive he hit on 17, a Canadian, right out of the blue. It just hit one sideways.
Yeah, and he's not he's not as much of a power player as guys like Rory and Rahm. So I think he can struggle out of that deeper rough if he's trying to hit his irons out of that deep stuff.
And by the way, Koepka, when he won that U.S. Open and PGA in 2018, was the first player to win both in the same year since 1980.
Wow.
So that's how long ago in between winning both events.
It's hard.
So again, pretty tough for Justin Thomas to accomplish that feat.
The thing we haven't talked about is tee times. You know how I am about tee times and weather.
Yes.
Especially in the U.S. Open, you got to face your fact you're going to have 5.5 and 6 hour rounds. That's why they start at like 6:45 in the morning, and you've got to be up 3 hours and 15 minutes before your first tee time, right? So that means they've got to be up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and that's if they're not getting stretched and all of that stuff. So but it's an endurance test. The U.S. Open is the ultimate. That's why I didn't think I'd ever win an Open, because it is such an endurance test. You've got to be patient. That's what concerns me a little bit about Rahm. He's not a patient player, and you've got to sit around on your bag and wait all day until it's just, there's so many amateurs in the field and you're tired. And then if you have a late early, if you have a 1 or 2 o'clock tee time and then you got to turn around and have a 6:45 the next morning, you're exhausted. So early late's going to be advantage. The only thing is, though, I heard it was going to rain Friday afternoon, and then there's nothing worse than having rain delays when you've been out there 6 hours.
Well, I know Rory's playing in the morning.
On Thursday?
Yes. So I don't know about some of the others. I know Rory is, though.
Yeah, I know Rahm and Morikawa are playing together, and they're pretty early in the morning, too.
Okay. And so and Scotty Scheffler, who's 14-1, he is trying to do something that hasn't been done since Jordan Spieth in 2015. That's win the Masters and the U.S. Open in the same year. And the only other player that did it between 2015 and 1972 was Tiger, 2002. That's win the Masters and the U.S. Open in the same year. And Scotty Scheffler is also trying to be the first number 1 ranked player to win the U.S. Open since Tiger Woods, 2008. And 2008 is interesting because it was the last time that the U.S. Open ended in a playoff. And how crazy is that, Jan, that with all the playoffs that happened, and we just saw a PGA playoff, and whether it's the one playoff that can take us to a completely, one-on-one matchup on a Monday hasn't happened since 2008.
Well, but now they changed the rules. Now we're not 18 holes anymore, is it?
No, yeah, they changed it at some point recently.
They did. Okay, well that's good. I'm glad.
I think it's I think it's a 5-hole composite or a 3-hole composite, like the PGA did.
PGA 3.
All three of the prior U.S. Opens at Brookline went to playoffs. So.
Wow,
then good timing. Oh, good timing. Because I didn't really, I think they were lucky because the whole Monday thing, if you get the wrong players, nobody's going to watch. Right. And it's going to kind of really put a damper on it. So you're saying it's what, 3 or 5 holes if they go to playoff?
I think so, yeah.
Well, either way, that's a lot better. And
yeah, you want to have a winner on Sunday.
Absolutely. Okay. Schauffele is at 16-1. Nobody took him. And I'm kind of surprised because his average finish at the U.S. Open is 5.2. He's played 5 U.S. Opens. His worst finish is 7th. How crazy is that? Xander Schauffele, Mr. U.S. Open, has done everything but win the U.S. Open. It just shows you where his game is right now, that the three of us, we have no confidence that he's going to have the confidence to win if this event's on the line on Sunday.
His game's...
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jen.
If you're not used to winning, I mean, and obviously he's won, but to lead a U.S. Open is so hard. If someone could come from behind and take, I've seen it where someone that shouldn't win an Open has come from behind and won, and then the pressure's been so much for the leaders coming down the stretch because they're so tired. And
that happened to Webb Simpson. Remember when Webb won? He was like in the clubhouse for like 3 hours, and Jim Furyk had the weight of his shoulders on him, and he totally tanked like the last few holes and just gave that away.
It's such pressure. I won wire to wire, and it was unusual. I mean, I won all my majors wire to wire, but it's really hard because you're doing all the press stuff. Everybody's concentrating on you. Everybody's watching, and it's such a. I mean, it's almost like a major hole on every hole. To me, it goes in slow motion. It's every hole you have to be focused. You're so exhausted that it's going to be. Yeah, these guys are all so young. It's okay, but it's a lot to take on. That extra pressure is hard. That's why I think we both picked.
Yeah, I was just. I mean, I think Xander's game is in a fine place, and I think he's a good fit at this course. Like you said, he's had success at the U.S. Open, but to me, just a guy who hasn't been able to close often throughout his career, just betting him at 16-1, I just can't get on them. If he was 25-1, it'd be a different story for me.
That was the whole deal for me. I was actually going to take him if he was 30-1, but I was like 16-1. I mean, that's right next to Scottie Scheffler. Why would I do that? It's just no. So yeah, I totally agree. So if his odds go up, which could very well happen, if he doesn't get off to a great start for whatever, he's 30-1 tomorrow. I mean, on Friday, then think about it. If you think he still has a shot based on where he's at, I'll look that up too. I have to, because I would think it's kind of hard to come back at the U.S. Open.
I don't know why I'm just not on down. I mean, not like for Scottie Scheffler right now, because I was early on, like for the Masters. I mean, for Bay Hill and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if he's got that spark for the Open yet. He doesn't. I know this is a silly thing to say, but I think he's not good under pressure. Look, he just blew it at Colonial after he's won 4 tournaments. But he blew Colonial.
Well, you know what it is probably, Jan. I think we talked about this. Is that he usually comes from behind to win events. So it's very rare that we do see him in that role where he sits there with the lead for a couple of days and everybody has to. So the whole Masters thing was something that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, and the Masters, you can get away with a few errant shots.
I actually I'd probably put Scheffler as like the third most likely guy to win this tournament behind Rory and Rahm. Again, it's just another case where I didn't like the number. If he's, what is he, 14-1, we said?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, it's just a bit too low for me.
I agree. I mean, the good thing about him is he's very steady, and that's what you have to be in an Open.
Let me see if I have it here. Okay, so let's see, first round, second round, third round. So if you're going into the final round, I don't even have to go to the final. Well, all right, let's just say that. So the last player to win a U.S. Open that was outside the top 8, just double check, was Hale Irwin in 1990.
Wow, at Wingfoot?
I don't have it here. So that was in 1990, 20th. That's where he was before the final round, after the third. And that 8th number I mentioned, which was the second farthest back, that was Webb Simpson, who we just mentioned, who was 29th after the second round. And so he kind of backdoored it, get in early, and let Jim Furyk, choke his way to winning. So now last year, Rahm was in 6th place.
Wow.
Going into the final round. And that's pretty high based on these numbers.
Who was leading after 3 rounds last year? That was it. That was over in Torrey Pines, wasn't it?
Yep. Was it Louis?
Oh, probably. Could have been.
Yeah, Louis. I think it might have been Louis.
Louis is like
Louis tends to fall apart a little bit.
Yeah, Louis was like in contention on almost every event, every major last year, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he lost to Morikawa at the British.
Well, see, it's actually even worse. Even just going into the weekend. So I didn't even have to go into like the 3rd round, because if we take Webb Simpson out of the equation, the farthest back somebody has been to win the U.S. Open after the 2nd round, I have to go all the way. You'd have to be, and again, let's just take Webb out. It was 6th place, Michael Campbell, in 2005. Other than that, you have to go all the way to Corey Pavin, who was 11th after the 2nd round in 1995. Wow. So even by the 2nd round, you have got to go into the weekend in like the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, and you do, and it's easier not to be leading, but you've got to be there, because it's too hard to make up when the golf course is that hard. They're saying maybe the scores are going to be 2-1 and might win, because the USGA's goal is that to be even par is the win. So you're not going to make a lot of birdies, so you can't afford any big double bogeys. If you make a mistake, you got to suck it up and make a bogey, because you can't make up a lot of birdies.
Yeah, that's the thing that you always got to remind yourself once you start watching. Oh, that's right. If you get a birdie, it's like an eagle. It's
incredible. And you've got to be so tentative and very defensive. You can't be aggressive at all.
Okay, now I want to go over a couple of these stats. So let's.
What about Sam Burns? Didn't I have him in the top 2?
We haven't even. He's nowhere near ready yet. He's 35-1. I want to get these lists up. All right, Jared. So top 10 strokes gained, U.S. Open last 5 years. No surprise, Brooks Koepka's at the top. Brian Harmon's the biggest surprise at 10. Yeah. But did anybody stick out there for you?
I was a little surprised to see Patrick Reed up at 6. We talk about driving being so important at the U.S. Open. To me, that's kind of his weakness. He can get kind of wonky off the tee, but I think his short game is so good. That's what's kind of carried him in these in these tournaments.
All right, and then by the way, Uste is in 2nd, and then the other stat is the top 10 strokes gained, tough courses, long rough combo, just the last 2 years. So Rahm on top, no surprise. Rory 2nd, no surprise. Finau's 3rd. Your boy Will Zalatoris is 4th.
My boy. Yep. How about Matthew Fitzpatrick 5th on that list? So that was surprising to me.
I know, I was too, because he won the amateur here. I thought he would have been higher up.
And my boy Cameron Young is 9th. By the way, our boys are teeing off together.
Former college teammates.
Did you know that?
Wake Forest.
Wow.
Forest, yep.
Maybe that's why they put them together. Okay.
Yeah, it's should be good vibes in that group.
Yeah. The one thing about the USGA, they actually, the PGA supposedly draw. When you're the A team, I mean, there's only so many in the A bracket, but that supposedly it's computer generated, whereas the USGA sit around and talk about it and purposely do it.
Okay, now Cantlay, by the way, is 20-1. He has just 2 top 10s and 1 top 5 in 21 majors. Can you believe that? That's terrible.
No.
Yeah.
And look,
I can't.
You would think, hey, look, he was 3rd at Memorial, tough golf course. 2nd at RBC, you have to be accurate. Wow, this should be a really good situation, because those are 2 of his last 3 events. But what was the other event? His miscut at the PGA.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a major issue going on with Patrick Cantlay. All right, so Cameron Smith, if you guys, Jared, if you had to take Cameron Smith, Xander Schauffele, or Scotty Scheffler, who would you take?
Oh, Scheffler easily, and I'd go Xander second and Smith third at this tournament. I just worry about Cam Smith's driving here.
Jan?
I totally agree with Jared. He's got it right.
Cameron Smith has 4 top 15s in his last 7 majors, but in the U.S. Open, if you throw out his first ever major, which was 2015 when he finished 4th at the U.S. Open, he didn't even know what he was doing, so that's the reason why he had no pressure on him. But since then, 59th miscut, 72nd, 38 miscut. So He's been pretty bad at U.S. Opens, even though he's off to a good start with a 3rd and a 13th at the majors so far this year. All right, so that was an easy one. How about this one? DJ Cantlay or Spieth? Dustin Johnson, the 2-time major champ, won the 16 U.S. Open. Let's see. If you take a look, he's made 12 of 14 cuts at the U.S. Open. If it wasn't for the fact that he hasn't made a cut this year at majors, we would consider DJ, but he's just not the same player this season. That's because of all the distractions. And then Jordan Smith, the 15 U.S. Open champ, has not.
Jordan Spieth.
What's that?
Spieth. Yeah.
Spieth has not played well at the U.S. Open since winning the U.S. Open in 2015. So Spieth, Cantlay, Dustin Johnson. You take. Is that an easy one? Spieth?
I'll take Spieth.
Me too.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Yep.
All right, now we're starting to get to some of our picks. So let's talk about 30-1 shots first, because we have all 3 30-1 shots that are on our picks. Starting first of all with Jared's top pick, and I'm glad you took Colin Morikawa, Jared, because what I would not want to see is Morikawa do a Brooks Koepka on us all and do nothing for like the last couple of months and then just win another major. So I'm glad at least you have him in case he does it. But what made you go after Morikawa, who has finished miscut 40th, 55, and 26 in his last 4 events?
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of player Morikawa is. He's not going to be consistent because he can have such horrible putting weeks. But when the putter is just average, and he's even capable of having like really good putting weeks, they kind of come out of nowhere. They're tough to predict. But when he putts well, he's going to be in the mix because the ball striking is always top notch. And to me, 30-1, it's just a value play on a guy with 4 wins over the last 2 years, including those 2 majors. Like for Morikawa to be twice the odds of Xander Schauffele,
silly.
That doesn't make sense to me. So to me, like Morikawa to me is like an auto bet if I ever get him over like 20-1. So to get him at 30-1 at a major, I'm taking it.
That's a good point. The thing with Colin that I like is that with these small greens, if he hits it on the green, it's going to be a birdie putt. There's not,
right.
No matter how fast they are, the greens are tiny.
Yeah, and the U.S. Open always, to me, is like a bombers kind of tournament, a power player tournament. But not that the country club is short, but I think in terms of U.S. Open courses, it's on the shorter side. Like I think these, and Morikawa's not a short driver, but he's more average. I think those type of players can compete on this course versus somewhere like Torrey Pines, which was much more of a bombers course. I think.
I agree totally.
All right. Also at 30-1, my second pick for the 3rd straight week is Matthew Fitzpatrick. And Matthew Fitzpatrick, he's just been so close. I'm not going to jump off now. Why would I? The strokes gain total is exactly where you want it to be in an event like this. He's trending in the right direction in majors, which has never been his specialty, but he seems to be dialed in now. He has 8 top 15s this year, including 3 top 5s, a runner-up. He does have some missed cuts, but what do you think about Matthew Fitzpatrick's chances this week, Jan?
Well, he's very consistent. That's one good thing. And I think the one thing going for him, besides the fact that he won the U.S. Amateur there, is that he said that when in Boston, there's a lot of British. And so he has a lot of support.
Okay.
People come out like when they did for the amateur. And he kind of fell apart at the PGA, but he's not the longest hitter. So I think this, like to your point, Jared, I think this golf course is going to suit him because he does hit a lot of fairways and greens, and he's played so much. I watched him at Valspar, and he's played almost every event. I mean, he's really played a lot of golf.
All right.
Yeah, and again, he's been really good on those tough courses, as we talked about. He was 5th on that list. He's also over the last 2 years, he's 4th best in this field at bogey avoidance. That's not a stat I look at most weeks, but I definitely look at it U.S. Open week, because like we said, it's really about avoiding big numbers, just making pars on these type of courses.
Okay, now we go to Jared's 30-1 shot, and this is his half of the next wave USA boy, Will Zalatoris. So back to Will Zalatoris again, and why not? I mean, we're just going to keep taking Will Zalatoris and Cameron Young until they don't play well in a major, at least, I guess. But Zalatoris, 6th and 2nd this year in the majors. Matter of fact, he's been 6th or better in 6 events this year, which is pretty awesome. And he has 5 top 10s in 8 majors with 2 runner-ups.
Yeah, just a crazy major record so far. I'm honestly surprised he's still 30-1. I figure, coming off the playoff loss in the PGA, that his odds would be sliced a bit. But I'm happy to bet him at 30-1. Coming off a nice performance at Memorial, finished 5th there. He was 2nd in that field in strokes gained off the tee and 13th in strokes gained approach. So the ball striking is there. Like you said, he's been good on these difficult courses with longer off. His game just fits these majors. He's gonna grind out those pars when you need them.
I agree. The only thing that concerns me is that the pressure of having to make those 3 and 4 footers, because at the Open, I don't know that his chipping is that fantastic. It's good, but it's not the John Rahm, Jordan Spieth style. So he still needs to work a little bit on that. But from tee to green, the U.S. Open's good for him, because he does hit a lot of fairways. He hits it long, and and I love his golf swing. So he can hit those little cutoff shots, which is good if it gets windy and cool. So I love his game. I like him more for a British Open than for the Open Championship rather than this. But he's putting those little fast, and I watched him. They showed a thing on him practicing his putting on, I think it was on Twitter or YouTube. And I was watching it, and he was putting and putting and putting, because everybody keeps saying if you could putt, right? And I didn't like his stroke. So I'm really into technical stuff. So as soon as the pressure gets on, he misses. He's too shut, and he hits them to the left. So I'm concerned that coming down that stretch with the pressure, unless he comes from behind, like you say, Greg, he's going to have trouble making those 4-footers.
The pressure of watching Zalatoris hit 3-foot putts when you bet him is tough to take. It's not fun. It's not fun.
No, I'm so nervous for him, and he takes it back inside and shut, and I'm like, oh no, this is going left.
All right, now the 35-1 shots include Sam Burns, who is not only one of Jan's picks, that's Jan's 2nd pick at 35-1, but is also one of my picks. Sam Burns is my 3rd pick at 35-1. So we both have Sam Burns, Jan.
Well, I've watched him a lot. I watched him every day at Valspar, and he was easy to pick, because he's just got such a good game. And this golf course, again, like I've said, he hits it right to left. I think he screwed up a couple of shots at the Canadian Open last week, like on 17. Remember when he hit that drive to the right, and it got a bad kick into the trees, and he went over the tree and got it just in front of the green, and then he putted. He's such a good chipper. I'm like, what are you doing putting it? So he hit a couple of really poor chips that if he'd have hit them the right way, like Justin Thomas would chip, he would have been right there. So I really think his game is ready. He's just having a great year, and I love his golf swing.
Yeah, the only major thing with Burns is almost like some of these other players that we've talked about. He doesn't have a great major resume yet, but his best major was his last major. So he finished 20th at the PGA. It's the best he's ever finished. So that was the last. That's why if he would have had like a 50th or missed a cut, I would have stayed away from him. But at least that's the best major we've seen out of him coming into this event. He's got 6 top 30s in his last 8, 4 of those top 10s, 3 top 5s, 2 wins, 4th last week. I also like the fact that he's 35-1, Jared. I think for a player that's that hot, 35-1 is not bad.
Yeah, and a player that just wins, right? Like when Burns gets into the mix, he closes at a higher rate than a lot of these other guys. So the major success is going to come for him. He's just too good of a player, and again, he's too proficient at winning for him not to capture a few majors, I think.
Okay, now
that's excellent. That's a good point. And he's still so young too. But he's aggressive, but I still think, and he's a good putter. I just wish if Will had his putting, he'd ran away with tournaments.
Unstoppable. Yep.
All right, now Shane Lowry, another player that two of our analysts have the same pick. Shane Lowry, Jared, he is your third choice, and for Jan, fourth choice. Shane Lowry at 35-1. Lowry, we've been talking about him for weeks. 11 of 11 top 35s this year. 10th last week. Hasn't played particularly well in the U.S. Opens lately. But he's having a fantastic season, and look, he's sure maybe he could win another Open Championship. He's that type of player, but the U.S. Open might also be a good spot for him. So why'd you go with Shane Lowry, Jared?
Yeah, like you said, he's just been playing so well, and I think his game fits the U.S. Open. He's a grinder. And I actually found a really cool stat. It's from Skylar Hoke. If you're on Twitter, he's at Skyhook DFS on Twitter. But if you looked at, so in this PGA Tour season, there have been 1,094 holes that have averaged over par during their respective tournaments. Lowry has been the best player in this field on those holes that have played over par.
Oh.
So wow. he's been good on tough golf holes. I think this, there's going to be a bunch of those in this tournament. So I think he's a good fit here. By the way, the rest of the top five on those tough holes, number 2 is Rory. Number 3 is John Rahm. Number 4 is Daniel Berger. And 5 was Xander.
Ah, that's interesting. Well, that doesn't surprise me with Shane, because again, he played Valspar, so I got to watch them all. He is an amazing chipper. He can chip, especially when you've come from in Britain, you've got to make up all kinds of shots. And he hit a couple of really soft, long, out of the long grass, which you need in the U.S. Open. And, it's at Irish. He's going to have all those people behind him in Boston. So, again, it's like being at home. And that's when he won his major, was in hometown territory. So I kind of felt like emotionally he's going to be comfortable. And he's played a lot of golf, more than he normally plays. And I just think he's ready.
Speaking of,
I'm glad that you gave me that stat. That makes sense.
Speaking of,
that's a good one.
Speaking of Berger, and he was definitely on my short list. Almost made the cut as far as my picks, but because he's coming off a 5th place his last time out, which is important. He's made 6 of his last 7 cuts in majors, even though he only has 2 top 10s. But the 2 top 10s have come in his last 4. Even though he doesn't have a good resume this year at majors. Then you have Hovland's at 35-1. He does not have a top 10 in 10 majors, and he does not have a top 10 in his last 6 events. So Victor Hovland, not the way to go right now. The other player at 35-1 is Tony Finau. He's my pick. You're probably going, wait a second, shouldn't Tony Finau be on Jared's page and Shane Lowry on Greg's page? So when Jared went with Shane, I stole Tony for myself. I like
it's a good steal.
Yeah, I like the fact that Tony is look, Jared, you liked Tony last week for a reason. He now has back-to-back top 5s, including a runner-up. So his game is right where you want it. He has 3 top 15s and 6 U.S. Opens, including an 8th and a 5th. He actually has 13 top 20s in majors, including 10 top 10s and 4 top 5s. So I guess I have to ask, why did you not take him?
Only because of the number. I just wanted a bit more than 35-1 on Finau. Again, kind of like Xander, where he doesn't close. And last week was a perfect example. Like, he played well enough to win last week. Rory just played better.
He actually played better. He was very steady, and he missed 2 putts inside 4 feet.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of the story of his career. Like, I don't think he's a choker. He just for whatever reason hasn't sealed the deal yet.
Yeah, I agree.
I like him. He's playing well. He's been good in majors. Again, I just wanted more than 35-1 on Finau.
That's smart. I mean, if he's kind of a bit like, he reminds me of Will. He should have won a lot early on, and his putting's always let him down.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, when Finau won that event last year, what was the event he beat Cameron Smith in the playoff?
Oh, you mean in Mexico?
No. It was was it during the FedEx playoffs?
Yeah, it was during the playoffs. It was the Northern Trust.
Okay, that was the
Yeah.
first time he won like an actual like big event.
Right.
Yeah, his only other win is Puerto Rico.
Yeah. So that was a long time coming. So that is the only thing that does concern me, no question. All right, Brooks Koepka, Joaquin Niemann, Matsuyama, Ustays, and an Im are 40-1. And out of that group, let's talk about Niemann because he is on our picks. Jared, you have Joaquin Niemann as your fourth choice. You've been a Joaquin Niemann guy, so you're going right back to him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we've talked about how driving and around the green play is going to be important. It tends to be at U.S. Opens. It's going to be important this week. So in this field over the last 6 months, Niemann's been the 4th best in strokes gained off the tee, and he's the 14th best in strokes gained around the green. So he does both those things well. He's good on approach too. You know, he's 29th in strokes gained approach in this field. He was great with his irons last time out at Memorial. He was 7th in that field in strokes gained approach. So I just think he has the all-around game. You know, we saw him win at a big event earlier this season. I definitely think he's a guy who is capable of winning a major.
Yeah, the only thing I was the big issue with him is he does not have a top 20 in his 13 majors.
Yep.
But again, he's kind of like where Sam Burns is. So it's sort of like you're gonna look at Niemann and go with what's happening this season the way I'm gonna go with Burns and go with what's happening this season and not worry too much about previous major results. So
yeah, I think if those guys had more major success, they'd be 5 to 10 points lower in the odds. You know, we wouldn't be getting Niemann at 40-1 or Burns at 35-1.
Jan, you have Hideki Matsuyama as your 5th choice at 40-1, the 21 Masters champ. He's got 8 top 35s in 9 U.S. Opens, including a runner-up in 2017. So Matsuyama, I mean, that's as good as you get because I don't think there's anybody that has 9 events and 8 cuts. So the fact that he has 8 cuts in 9 U.S. Opens and the 8 cuts are all top 35s is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't make big numbers. My concern was that he's not great around the greens as far as chipping and putting, but I think that his ball striking and he's really worked hard on his chipping. I was reading that his coach said that you've got to be more like the Americans and get up and down more. So he spent a lot of time chipping, and I think that's going to help him. I know he's had that neck injury, but I think that's okay now.
The one player at 40-1 that I came really close to taking was Sung Jae Im. 8th at the Masters. He's got 5 top 35s in his last 6 majors, including a runner-up at the 20 Masters. He's got 4 straight top 25s on the season. He's trending in the right direction. 10th last time out. What do you think about Sung Jae Im this week, Jared?
I like him. He's been really good, like you said, since the Masters. It's kind of been a funky season for him. He hasn't been able to play as much as he usually does. You know, I think he had a COVID issue when he was coming back from Asia at some point. Yeah, I like him. He's been playing well. Hideki was actually like the last guy off my list. Oh. I think 40-1 is a really nice number on Hideki. I agree with all the things Jan said about him.
By the way, Jared, you have Mito Pereira. Who's now? I mean, we both really like his pedigree. We said it before, his PGA Championship performance. So obviously, if you didn't take him, I would have, because we're not going to let him win a major without us taking him. So, by the way, he's made 7 straight cuts this year, and they're all top 30s.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would say with Mito, if you want to bet him, shop around for better numbers. I know he's still 70-1 at win, which is actually where I bet him. So 45 is not a great number on DraftKings, but I did want to shout him out here. I would not have been surprised if he had slumped a little bit after that finish at the PGA Championship. That has not happened. He finished 7th at the Charles Schwab and 13th at Memorial.
I predicted that. I said he's not going to slump.
I mean, that's just. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but he just seems like a grinder to me. Like, yes. So I like that at the U.S. Open. He was actually 2nd in the field in strokes gained tee to green in both of his last 2 events, the Charles Schwab and Memorial. He just hasn't quite putted well enough to win those. So yeah, he just continues to play awesome. He's 10th in that bogey avoidance stat I mentioned, which I think, jives with what we think of him as a player. So I just think he's another guy who has the type of game to win these, tougher courses at majors.
All right, and the last player that will round out our top fives is on my list. That's Cam Young at 50-1. And again, Young and Zalatoris will tee off at 8 o'clock on Thursday morning together. I just don't. The only thing about Cam Young is I just don't know what happened to him on Sunday.
Yeah.
When he shot 84.
Ooh.
I was like, where did that come from? That was Memorial.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, because second, third, in contention, 84 on Sunday. I mean, but I'm willing to forgive that. Something happened there anyway. But just like Zalatoris, I just, there's no reason for me not to take Cam Young once again until he falls on his face in one of these big events. So what do you think about Cam Young, Jan?
Well, I think it's, the 84, I'm sure he played in the last few groups at Memorial, and that's a lot of pressure. And again, I would go back to who he's paired with, because if you get paired with some people that they're intimidating, it can really affect you. You're trying to impress them and make sure that, show that you're there. And I've been in those situations, and it's like, God, I remember towards the end when I had to play with Annika all the time, seemed like I was paired with her, and I was like, oh, I hate that pairing because I'm gonna have to play really well, and then I just I'd have huge numbers, and I just would let it go. And so there's a lot to say with getting used to being in the last few groups, and he's certainly got the pedigree and the ability.
Okay. Now, just quickly, let's before we get into the 100-1 shots, any of the other players, there's one other player that's on my list that's not a 100-1 shot. My first alternate is Tommy Fleetwood. Fleetwood has made 10 straight cuts. 9 of 10 have been top 35s. The fifth was at the PGA, so that's important. He's trending the right way on the majors. He's been a runner-up at the U.S. Open. So I just think that maybe, look, I wasn't going to put him on my top 5, Jared, because like we've talked about, we've lost a lot of money on Tommy Fleetwood because we keep thinking he's going to win it. He's going to win it. But I figured I think he's just hanging around just really good right now that I think this is worth an opportunity to at least put him in my alternates.
Yeah, I think you're getting a big enough number on him odds wise to take a shot. And like you said, he has been playing really well, really all season. He was slumping bad, really throughout 2021. But since the calendar turned, he's been really good. The ball striking's been good. He's gained on approach in 7 straight events now. He's even putting pretty well, which tends to be the weakness with Tommy.
What are the results?
65.
Yeah, he tends to he's like Cam Smith. He gets that hook going, and you get a hook going at the Open, and goodbye.
Yep. Okay, now if you had, Jan, to choose between Billy Horschel, who's 55-1 coming off a win at the Memorial, Daniel Berger, or Max Homa, who would you take?
Man, that's a close one between Homa and Horschel, but I got to go with Horschel. I love his golf swing.
Jared?
Homa for me. He actually almost made my list there.
Yeah, Horschel and Homa both almost made mine. I think they're both really in good position.
For sure.
And what about if Justin Rose at 65-1, Corey Connors at 60-1, or Taylor Gooch at 80-1? Jan?
I'm going Taylor.
Jared?
I would go Taylor because he played last week. Everybody thinks he's crazy to have joined the LIV Tour. He's got something to prove.
I'm gonna go Corey Connors there. I think he's the best ball striker of those 3. The short game worries me, especially on the greens. But I think he can find a bunch of fairways and hit a bunch of greens here.
And he's coming in. He's trending in the right direction, and he shot a 62 on Sunday.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was a nice round.
That's right, he did.
And speaking of nice rounds, Justin Rose.
Yeah.
Can you believe he blew that on the last shot? I mean, he only had a 7-iron, and you couldn't hit it on the green.
How did he hit it?
I mean, you could just have guided it onto the green and 2-putted.
Yeah. What happened there? He hit it 50 yards too long. It looked like.
Well, he took too much club. I think he was trying to like smooth it, and his adrenaline got him.
Yeah, so Rose has 5 top 10s, 3 top 5s, and a win in the U.S. Opens. The only thing is he's been up and down over his last 6 events. So if he misses the cut this week, I'm going to take him next week when he plays.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, that's my strategy
that.
with Justin. Okay, now the 100-to-1 shots that include players on our board. So let's go with those first. 100-to-1 shots. Jared, you have Aaron Wise and Patrick Reed as your alternates at 100-to-1. And Patrick Reed at 100-to-1, the 18 Masters champ, has 7 top 35s in 8 U.S. Opens, including a 4th in 2018. Wise, meanwhile, coming off that second place finish at the Memorial, has made his last 6 major cuts. So why did you pick those 2 as your alternates?
Yeah, I mean, Rito is mostly the number, 100-to-1 on a guy who's won a major, has won plenty of golf tournaments, a guy that I would, trust to deliver if he's in the mix down the stretch.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, and his game's been off for a while, but we've talked about it. It's kind of been rounding into form slowly. The driver's been a bit better. He changed drivers. The short game's always awesome. So 100-to-1, I think he's worth a shot. And then Wise, I just think, his ball striking has remained awesome for a while now. In this field over the last 6 months, 30th off the tee, 15th on approach. I think his short game seems to be improving too. He's actually gained strokes around the green in 4 of his last 5 tournaments now. So I just think he's a good all-around player. Probably not ready to win a major quite yet, but at 100-to-1, I'll take a shot on him.
Mm-hmm.
Jan, your 2 alternates were at 130-to-1. Adam Scott and Jason Kokrak. So both players have not had a top 10 in their last 10 majors. Kokrak's actually never made 11 majors. But so Kokrak 0 for 10, Scott 0 for his last 10, but you're taking both of them as your 130-to-1 shots. Why are you going with those 2 players?
Well, Adams won majors, so he's kind of like Patrick Reed, like what Jared said about Patrick. If he gets in contention, he can deliver. He's not going to be afraid of it. And he is starting to, I know he's starting to work on his game. He had his brother-in-law was giving him lessons, and I think he actually went back to a professional coach. And I heard he's been really working hard to try to get it back before he gets too old. So I kind of want to give him a shot at that. Kokrak, I did it because he bombs it, so I figured he could hit a 3-wood off the tee and keep it in play, and he's strong enough to get out of the long grass, and it's such high odds.
And then the last player,
but he'll have to come from behind. I don't know that he can handle the lead.
And then the last player on our list is my Webb Simpson, second alternate at 110-to-1, the 2012 U.S. Open champ. We told you how he won that one. He has 5 top 20s, 3 top 10s, and a win in U.S. Opens. He's made 19 of his last 20 major cuts, including 11 top 20s, 4 top 10s, and 1 top 5. So same thing. If I'm looking for a player in this area, I'd rather take a guy who knows how to make cuts in majors, hang around, and if he can get hot, then maybe Webb Simpson's a guy to keep an eye on. So. What about Webb Simpson, Jared?
Yeah, he's interesting. I just kind of pulled him up because I hadn't looked into him much yet this week. I know he kind of struggled through the Florida swing, 35th at the Masters. And the results haven't been great over the last 4 events, but he's gained off the tee and on approach in 4 straight events now. The putter has let him down. As I say, Webb's usually a good putter. So I actually, I like that one. I might have to ride that with you.
Well,
yeah, I agree. I actually surprised he's that high up, but again, he can come from behind because if he gets that putter hot, he's amazing.
All right.
And that segues us into the last part, which is if we had $1 to put on 3 golfers that we did not pick. So it has to be somebody that we have not named yet, over 100-to-1. 3. Who would it be? So, Jared, do you have your list?
I do.
Okay.
Want to hear him?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's 3 of my guys that I bet quite a bit. Luke List, 150-1.
Luke List it was on my list.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, he won Torrey Pines a few months ago.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
Excellent driver. He's actually really good around the green. He's underrated there. The putter's always the issue, but I think 150 to 1's a good number. Gary Woodland I went with, who's also 150 to 1. Not in the best form, but I mean, he did win a U.S. Open a few years ago. I think when he's on, he's a good driver of the golf ball, so I like 150 there. And then Sibu Kim at 150 to 1. Just a guy who tends to pop. He's very inconsistent, but he can get hot. And, if he does, he could find himself in the mix on Sunday.
Okay, and then my list, I'll give Jan a little bit more time to figure her.
Yeah, I only have one. I didn't have three.
Well, there's not a lot to choose from when you really come down to it, since we've already taken a bunch of them. But I'm gonna go, like I said, List is one of my guys. The other is Tom Hoge. I said it last time at the PGA, and he finished 9th. So I know he's got back-to-back missed cuts coming in here, but I think he's the type of player that can actually handle the pressure if he's in contention. He has made 6 straight major cuts, and he's coming off his best major finish, the 9th at the PGA. He is at 150 to 1, just like List. And then how can I not put a buck on Phil Mickelson?
No, can you imagine?
So he's 200 to 1. So yes,
Wow.
I have to put $1 on Phil Mickelson, even though he has not had a top 25 in his last 7 U.S. Opens.
I agree. That's a good one.
By the way, Harris English at 200 to 1 has made all 6 U.S. Open cuts and has finished 3rd and 4th his last 2 years at the U.S. Open.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't play for 6 months there. The Memorial was his first tournament since January. He missed the cut at Memorial. Was not good. So
yeah,
I think he needs a few more tournaments before he can get in the mix again.
I've got one for Jan.
Phil. That's a good one.
I've got one for
All right,
Jan.
I'm going to pick a guy. I'm only going to pick one. I'm going to pick Jed Morgan.
Who?
Jed Morgan is a kid from Australia. He turned pro and won the Australian PGA, and he won by 11 shots.
Oh.
And he's a rookie. He missed a cut Memorial. It's the first time he's ever played in America. And I actually, he couldn't handle the pressure, but he looked pretty good for the Australian PGA when he won.
Okay. Well, now we know who that is.
He's won a major.
And so his first 2 PGA events are going to be Memorial and then the U.S. Open. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, and then the British and the Open Championship. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to round out Jan's 100 to 1 shots. Jan's going to put $1 on Ryan Fox, the Aussie, who is coming off. He's got, if you take a look at it, he has 6 top 15s in his last 7 events, including 2 runner-ups and a win.
Oh, wow.
So, and then Jan's going to put $1 on Kevin Na.
Oh, I should put one on Kevin. I should do that on personally because I'm friends with him.
See? So I know what you.
Yeah, I considered Na for this. The other guy I considered was Francesco Molinari, who's been playing better recently.
What? He was on my original list. I forgot him.
Yeah.
But
he's a great ball striker. I think he's actually good for an Open.
Okay.
Yep, me too.
I agree with that. Brilliant. I forgot all about Francesco.
There you go.
And then finally, just some trends. Lucas Glover was the last player to make the U.S. Open their maiden PGA Tour win. So that's not good news for Cameron Young and Will Zalatoris fans. But, hey, if Lucas Glover can do it, Zalatoris and Young can.
I've been saying Zalatoris is going to be a streak buster. He's going to do it.
Yep.
I agree. It's going to be like Scheffler. Once he wins, it's going to be a lot of
And what about Davis Riley? He could do it, too. What do you think? Davis Riley?
Yeah, he's been playing well, too.
I don't know if he can handle the pressure. Only 5 players have won the U.S. Open on their first attempt. Do you know the last player to do that?
I don't.
Jan?
Mm-mm.
You would never guess it anyway, except for the fact that there was a movie about him. Francis We Met.
Wow.
Oh, well, he was the only amateur that's ever won.
Yes. Can you believe that it's been since 1913 since a player has won the U.S. Open in their first attempt?
Wow.
Crazy. That's because a lot of the times nowadays.
I'm telling you, it's the hardest it's the hardest championship. It is a long haul. The whole thing is, I can remember sitting on my bag in 6.5 hours and it's not being finished. And you're like, how can you stand this?
I think
I'm going through all our picks and making sure they've all played U.S. Opens. It looks like we're good.
Yes.
Cam Young's played a couple.
I'm pretty sure they've all played. Yeah.
You know why?
Okay, so we're
Because
good there.
now, like when you're an amateur, you always play the Open.
Yeah.
So you're playing when you know you have no chance anyway, and so that record just goes right down the drain. You know.
Well, and plus they've all played the majors. If you're a top, all the college kids now, they come out almost ready to play.
Only 2 of the last 31 U.S. Open winners ranked outside the top 100. Payne Stewart was one of them. The last 12 winners of the U.S. Open all ranked in the top 40 at the start of the event, and only 5 in the last 31 ranked outside the top 40. Stewart's in that list, obviously. Goosen, Campbell, and Lucas Glover are also on that list.
Well, we know it's a pressure-packed week, so that makes sense.
And who's televising this?
NBC, I believe.
I think it's NBC. Yeah.
It is? Okay, cool. Jan, appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.
Next week is what? Travelers, and an opportunity for us to talk about the U.S. Open, and let's hope we have a good one. Let's hope we have a playoff.
Well, plus we've got the KPMG, the PGA LPGA Championship, and I'm going to be there.
Awesome.
You're going to be there
I'll
next
take some pictures. Yep.
All right. So there you go. So we're going to have to figure out how to take advantage of the fact. Where is it?
It's in Congressional in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Cool.
So that should be a much tougher golf course than what the women just had at the
it's
U.S.
really
Open.
hard. It's such I play it every year. It's a hard golf course. And they've renovated it, so it's even harder.
Excellent. All right. So that's next week. Jan, appreciate it. Of course, Jared, look forward. Maybe the next time we talk, who knows, might be football before we talk golf. But we'll talk next week.
Yeah, we're getting close.
The Lightning, yay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.